You're not going to believe this. I saw a film this weekend called Jurassic Park, which was all about dinosaurs that are brought back to life and they kill mankind. Look, I liked it so much, I even bought a t-shirt. Why aren't more people talking about this? What? We're live. Hello, my name is Flippin' Marks and welcome to Kayfabe News, the Raw review. And I need to put on my serious voice because last night during WWE's Monday night programming, Rey Mysterio announced that at Extreme Rules, the pay-per-view that airs a week this Sunday, it will be a match against Seth Rollins where the stipulation is the winner will be whoever can extract the other man's eye from their retina, from their socket. And I am very concerned for the state of professional wrestling in general. I would like to know who sanctioned this match. I would like to know who was signed off on it. And I would also like to know how either man tries to, what do they think they're going to do? Have you ever tried to take an eye out of another person's skull? I tried it. It was back in 1984. It was a bit of a bad year for me, and somebody was trying to steal my crumpets. I needed my crumpets for my own sanity. I don't want to get into it. And I decided to teach him a lesson. I would remove his eyeball. It doesn't work. You pull on it and you pull on it, and it's like a ball on a string. It just goes boing, and it goes back into your head. Still, though, it is disgusting. It is depraved, and I think World Wrestling Entertainment needs to sit down at the highest level and tell Rey Mysterio he's not allowed this match. But unfortunately, other evidence suggests to us that this won't be the case, and I'm going to present that to you now. Firstly, we have to transport ourselves back to 1999 and the pay-per-view Unforgiven, when those in charge again of World Wrestling Entertainment said it was okay for Al Snow and the Big Boss Man to enter a Hell in a Cell, the demon's, the devil's favorite structure, and also put a bunch of rabid dogs in there to have a professional wrestling match. Now, these dogs, like I say, were rabid, they were angry, they were aggressive, they were hungry. All it would have taken is one mistake, just one, and somebody could have been eaten alive. To this day, fans are still livid about this contest for the simple fact that it did go ahead, and while the dogs in question did spend a lot of the time during that just pooping, it was probably because they needed something to feed upon, so they ate their own feces. Big Boss Man, aka Ray Traylor, which was his real name, and Al Snow, real name Leif Cassidy, were able to get out of there alive, but to this day, 21 years later, I think it's disgusting that it was even put up on a marquee to try and sell tickets, and I'll be damned if it's happening again in 2020. Just a year after that, over in WCW, or World Championship Wrestling, at the New Blood Rising pay-per-view, Kanyon and Buff Bagwell also competed in a Judy Bagwell on a pole match. And here, their feud had gotten so personal, Buff Bagwell's mother, Judy, was elevated via a forklift and just left there to hang, and as far as I saw it at the time and today, left there to potentially die. Now this got even worse because the only reason this happened to begin with is that Kanyon had kidnapped Judy Bagwell, and rather than call the authorities or the cops, WCW decided to turn it into a match. Now thankfully it was during this evening where Buff Bagwell was able to retrieve his mother, but I will never get over it, and I'm worried that we are repeating the same mistakes. And finally, of course, we go back to 1998 and the King of the Ring, where Undertaker was told, can you please try and kill that guy called Mankind, hence why he grabbed him and threw him off the top of the Hell in a Cell. And that didn't work, he tried to kill him again, and a third time by throwing him into a bunch of thumbtacks. And now we're going to see another man's eye pulled out of his head, and fans around the world are celebrating this like it's nobody's business. There was yet more crime on this week's episode of Raw when MVP, accompanied by Bobby Lashley, made their way into the squared circle, revealed a very lucky new design for the US Championship, before saying that MVP was now the champion. Now, had he beaten Apollo Crews? No. Did we even see Apollo Crews on this show? No. Was anybody concerned like they ever are? No. He could be in a ditch and nobody would give two hoots. And for some reason, it was up to Ricochet and Cedric Alexander to try and stop this crime, because again, nobody gave two hoots. It reminds me back in the early 2000s where Eric Bischoff just gave the World Heavyweight Championship to Triple H and not one wrestler on the roster seemed to give a damn. Well, Kayfabe knows, and Philip Marks gave a damn, and I still give a damn today. Like I say, thankfully the jobbers known as Ricochet and Cedric Alexander were out there to try and stop this. They had a tag team match, and being a couple of losers that they are, they got their ass beaten into oblivion. MVP then tried to recruit Cedric Alexander into his team, but to me, that's like trying to use a flower as a gun. It's not going to get you anywhere now, is it? In better news, Kairi Sane returned to Raw last night after Nia Jax had just hurled her into some steel stairs a few weeks ago and potentially ended her career. She had an impromptu match with Sasha Banks where it looked like she was going to win before Bayley caused the disqualification. This carried on later too when Bayley did indeed take on the Empress of Tomorrow, known as Asuka, where Nikki Cross was allowed to do commentary and appear in the crowd despite being a SmackDown superstar. Now I understand that Tom Phillips and the announce team did vouch for her, but you can't just make up your own rules, which goes to show that this entire episode of Raw really does need to be sent to the police. They need to go through it, or at least become kind of sporting body, so some rules and regulations can be put into practice. And it was Nikki Cross that caused another distraction, which allowed Asuka to roll up Bayley to get the 1, 2, 3. And I can only presume now that after Extreme Rules, when they've got their other matches out the way, we need to see Bayley versus Asuka in a champion versus champion match. I mean, how can you say otherwise? Asuka won, Bayley didn't. Also, she's really loud. And finally, Drew McIntyre was finally reunited with a long-lost band member of his when the recently fired Heath Slater, I can only imagine, jumped security and got through a lot of protocols to appear on Raw, even though his t-shirt told us he was a free agent. I mean, that's like me turning back up on CNN. Trust me, they will not let me in. And I was worried for a little while there because Heath Slater was letting us know that despite the fact he was fired back in March, Drew McIntyre, his supposed best friend, hadn't given him a call once, which was doubly upsetting because when Drew McIntyre was fired a few years ago, Heath Slater rang him every single day. Now, to me, that sounds like the actions of a stalker, but Drew didn't seem to mind this, so I will give Heath Slater the benefit of the doubt. We then did get yet another impromptu match on Raw, and unfortunately for Heath, these last few months out of the ring have done him no favors. He was Claymore kicked in around about 15 seconds, and he lost before Dolph Ziggler tried to beat him up when Drew McIntyre finally remembered what a buddy does, and he made the save. Heath clearly doesn't have any other friends because he accepted the forgiveness here. The two hugged, and it will be interesting to see what Heath Slater does now. I mean, it says free agent, but you know, what's he going to agent in? There's only one wrestling company in the world, and those three letters on the board are WWE. When you're out of there, well, you're pretty much toast, and I'm going to eat you for breakfast. Before we do wrap up as well, I do just want to send out a Kayfabe news package of love towards Angel Garza, whose life, surprise, surprise, was threatened on this episode of Raw while he was tagging with Randy Orton. The Viper, the man who hears voices in his head, got so sick of Angel Garza arguing with Andrade that he grabbed him by his throat, pushed him against the wall, and insinuated that he would indeed kill him if he didn't start wrestling to the level that Randy Orton, the multiple-time world champion, deemed worthy. To be fair, this did light a fire under Garza's ass as the team won, but it brings me back to all the points I've made through this last video. You can't just go around making wanton death threats. That's not how the world works. Vince McMahon, what are you doing? Why haven't we heard from you? Why haven't you released a statement? Why haven't you put anything into practice to try and stop this happening? If I threaten to kill Don over there, our producer, you'll never see me again because I'll be fired. And you want to know why? Because you can't make death threats. And apparently everyone is just so scared of Randy Orton and the voices he's hearing in his brain that we just let him run amok. I mean, let's not forget, he killed Christian. We saw the death of Christian on Raw. Edge hasn't returned ever since their match. He did an interview in a dark ring telling us he was going to come back, and he didn't. And I fear for what is going to happen to the Big Show at Extreme Rules. It doesn't matter if you're 7 foot tall, if somebody is out to end your life. And that's it. That's the Kayfabe News Raw review. Make sure you subscribe, like the video, share the video, and of course subscribe. I said it twice because it's that important. And if Ruby Riot is watching this video, I would just like to say, Ruby, I think it's time to change your name. I mean, that's not your birth given name. Your parents didn't write Ruby Riot down on that piece of paper. And really, what the hell are you even rioting against? You've lost to the Iconics twice in a row. You don't have any friends. Nobody came out to make the save. You just need to accept you haven't got it anymore. And maybe now you should be called Ruby 2B. Just because it rhymes and you'll make kids smile. And let's face it, That's what life is all about. I'll see you throughout the week with even more breaking news, which probably may come in the form of where the hell Lana was and where the hell Natalya. Two other people that were missing from this week's Raw. Also, where is Shayna Baszler and where is Bianca Belair? I know I talked about this 7 days ago. It's very concerning. Each week that goes past with no mention of them leads me to believe that there is a conspiracy at play here, with WWE being the conspirators. And again, as I've already mentioned, if we need to break some conspiracy news here on Kayfabe News, we'll break it like an egg. And an egg breaks easy. I will see you soon.